Man, I feel like I gotta start this video off by just saying Jimmy Butler's a warrior, man. After watching that conference finals with him in Miami, Miami and Boston, I really feel like that Jimmy Butler doesn't get enough credit for what he does. I had to label the best superstars in the playoffs. I think Jimmy, for me, that's hard. I think Jimmy would probably be one of the best. I think if you got to look at Luka, Jimmy, Jason Tatum. Obviously, you probably put Curry there. I think I'll take Jimmy one. I'm saying that a little confusingly because Luka was so good, but where he lacked is where Jimmy didn't. Right? They didn't attack Jimmy the same way they attacked Luka defensively. And you look at the stats, while Luka put up better overall stats. And yeah, he played, Golden State, and that's fair. That's a crazy good team. Jimmy was easily more overwhelmed. I truly think that even when Luka didn't have a lot of help, and I'm not looking at the stats here. This is just off the top of the head. I feel like Jimmy dealt with more. He dealt with injury. He dealt with being just exhaustedly tired. There was literally only 2 games where he didn't play over 30 minutes. If you really want to be specific, there was only 3 games where he played less than 40, being game 2, 3, 4. That's crazy. He didn't get a break, and then there wasn't much help for him either. But as we keep going, I just want to put a little disclaimer here. Look, this video isn't like my regular videos. I don't have as much research in these videos. I do a little bit of research, a good amount of them. This is a reactionary type of video. I just want to say that my opinion should be reserved to change at any moment, because I'm reacting to what I just saw, and I'm just impressed by Jimmy Butler. I never had him as one of the highest superstars in the league, but whenever the playoffs came, you knew you were going to get his best. This best is what surprised me. So Jimmy Butler was not at fault for the Miami's loss to the Celtics. I think, in fact, he was least at fault. I think most people could agree with that. He played extraordinary for a guy that was not brought on to be the biggest time scorer, but Jimmy has always been this great two-way player who can do both, score and defend. Let's be honest, defending takes so much out of players. For him to average what he did this series is extraordinary. Jimmy Butler averaged 25.6 points this series. He also averaged 7 rebounds and 3.4 assists. While I don't have Jason Tatum's stats, his stats to Jason Tatum's, at least in the scoring department, is similar. I think Tatum did average more assists. I can't remember the rebounds. Jimmy was a better field goal percentage scorer. He scored 47% from the field, which to me is just incredible considering how good that Boston defense was. Because besides Jimmy not just playing hurt, he was exhausted and he was easily keyed on. Boston knew who was going to do all the damage offensively. They didn't worry about Tyler Hero. Victor Oladipo wasn't consistent enough. Bama Adebayo played too passive. He was a passive aggressive player in this series, and that's just, you can't look. I love Bam Adebayo, man. I think he's gonna be great. I believe he's like Dwight Howard, but I'll be very honest, you cannot play like how he did this series. He had some really good games, but was inconsistent in his role. He just wasn't aggressive enough, and especially when you lose Tyler Hero, either to injury or just bad play, you're the second best player now, right? At any given moment on that court, if it's you and Jimmy, you're the second best. If it's no Jimmy, you're the best. You have to show it. But I did some research because watching that game, I was wondering how much help did Jimmy really have, right? Because you see analysts on ESPN and other sports talks segments and shows talking about Jimmy is he can't be a superstar on a championship team.
Do you believe Jimmy Butler can be the best player on a championship team?
Initially I said yes, but now it's no. Honestly, I don't think, and there's no discredit to his game. I love Jimmy. He's a two-way player. He plays both ends of the floor. I just don't think he could shoot the ball from the 3 good enough. He's been the main player. He's been the main catalyst. Not the main catalyst, but he was with Philly. He wasn't the main guy there. Obviously, he spent some little time with the Timberwolves. Couldn't get it done there. In Miami, couldn't get it done there. With the Bulls, couldn't get it done there. And this is young Jimmy. So I don't know if older Jimmy can do that.
And I don't know if anyone can with the help that Jimmy got. Here are some stats here, right? In the games that the Heat won, Jimmy had to essentially play 35.6 minutes, had to score 32 points a game, had to have 7 boards, 5 assists, and he had to shoot 55% from the field. he had a plus minus of 15, or plus 15, we should say. Right, that was the games he won. In the games he lost, he had played 37 minutes, had 20.8 points, essentially 21 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. His field goal percentage in those games they lost was 42%. He had a plus minus of negative 17. They won games, 1, 3, and 6, and lost games 2, 4, 5, and 7. And I think that doesn't give you the whole picture, but it shows that if Jimmy wasn't putting up big stats, shoot, no one was. No one was playing great. The one game that, Miami won, being the game that Jimmy got hurt on, if I remember correctly, was game 3. Jimmy, got hurt, went out, didn't play the rest of the game. They stole that game, but in reality, it honestly should have been Boston's game. Boston lost that game more than the Miami stole the game. Boston came and fought back. There was no Jimmy. You could see the offense just struggle heavily without Jimmy Butler. And I just think, Miami lost that game. That kind of helped a little bit with the stats, skewed the stats a little bit, because obviously Jimmy played a half, only put up 8 points that game. And he'd probably be averaging more in games they won if, he didn't win that game. But I think that it just shows man, if Jimmy wasn't dropping crazy great games, because the only difference in his statistical data from him winning a game and him losing a game was, 1, he was dropping almost 12 more points a game, and 2, his field goal percentage was 13% higher. I'm not doing the math correctly, but about 13%, and his assists were about 3 assists higher. Your plus minus obviously is going to be lower. You're losing those games. Obviously, players, and I think Jimmy having Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on that other team is going to really skew his plus minuses. With that being said, though, by that showed to me hey, Jimmy just had to go off every game if they want to win. I think the big one was how many players scored 20 or more points outside of Jimmy Butler. For example, here's a stat: in 7 games, only 3 players had 20 or more points, and of course you're excluding Jimmy Butler here. In game 3, which they lost, Bam Adebayo had 31 points on a 68 field goal percentage. Game 4, they lost. Victor Oladipo had 23 points, shooting 44% from the field. Game 7, they lost. Bam Adebayo had 25 points on 57% from the field, which also was the only game that Jimmy Butler has scored more than 20, while playing with someone who was obviously scoring more than 20. And I think that's very important, because that was also the game Jimmy Butler dropped over 20 points at half, game 7, where he scored 35 points a game, 9 rebounds, and he only assisted 1 time, but he shot 54% from the field that game. You really can't blame Jimmy Butler for that game alone. And it's just, that to me is crazy to think that, hey, essentially, if Jimmy Butler didn't score 20, then you weren't going to win in the only game that you won where Jimmy Butler didn't score 20 was game 3. I should also say this. I meant to say game 3 they won. But, you got to compare that to the Celtics. The team that, statistically had a better defense and statistically had a better offense. The Celtics were, to me, just on fire for most of the series. I think that they should have probably won this series in 6 games. And if Jimmy Butler wasn't dropping 40-point games, they would have won this series in easily 6 games. But this, in the same stat, right? In 7 games, there were 6 players that scored 20 or more points, excluding Jason Tatum, who was their best player, right? In game 1, they lost. Jaylen Brown scored 24 points on 41% from the field. Game 2, they won. Jaylen Brown scored 24 points from the field. He also put 53% from the field. And Marcus Smart also put 24 points on 36% from the field. That's crazy, because in not one game in Jimmy Butler's series that Jimmy Butler had someone else score, 2 guys score 20. And then on the other side of things, we have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart being able to score 20, consistently. In game 3, which they lost, Jaylen Brown scored 40 points. He shot 70% from the field. Al Horford scored 20 points. He shot 50%. And this was the only game in the whole series that Jason Tatum just didn't score 20. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head how much he scored, but I'm pretty sure it was around 15, 16. Wasn't a great game for him in his standards. There's not much you can say. The fact that I can say, hey, man, Jason Tatum only scored 15, 16, and that's horrible for him, is crazy because that's how high we hold him as a superstar. Keep going with the stat though. Here's crazy. Another one. Game 5, they won. Jaylen Brown dropped 25 points, 53% from the field. Game 6, they lost. Derek White dropped 22 points, 50% from the field, and Jaylen Brown dropped 20 points, 46% from the field. In Game 7, when they clutched it up, Jaylen Brown dropped 24 points from the field, and Marcus Smart dropped 24 points on 36% from the field. A no quick note: Game 2 and 7 had almost identical stats for Brown, Smart, and Tatum. The difference was Tatum's efficiency changed in those games 2 through 7, but Brown and Smart efficiency was essentially the same, even points. Jaylen Brown dropped 24 points on 53%. Mark Smart dropped 24 points on 36%, which is crazy. In 4 games, there were 2 or more players that scored 20 or more points, excluding Tatum, meaning that in 4 different games, Tatum had a lot of help. Just simplify it. And I just think that, look, I'm not saying like Jimmy Butler is Luka Doncic level offensively or as big as Luka, but I think that he's on that same tier, because when you have to factor in the fact that there was essentially no help, like someone had to go right with this guy, man. I feel that Jimmy Butler deserves a lot more credit too. And so like you look at the stats and you say like, okay, well Jimmy Butler obviously was offensively amazing. I don't think you can count on that again. Not because he can't do it, because if you want him to do what he usually does great, be great offensively and defensively, and Jimmy Butler needs a running mate. But I think he needs one that isn't someone so much like him. He needs someone who can take the offensive load off of him. And the first guy that kind of comes to your head is Donovan Mitchell. Like, look, I get that the Jazz are most likely not going to want to move Donovan Mitchell. I think they'd rather move Rudy Gobert, but Donovan Mitchell, it doesn't seem very, very happy. So I could really see him be moved, quicker than Rudy is. And I don't think they're going to move both these guys. I think that unless they're going to go total rebuild, maybe they lose Quinn Snyder, which I don't think that's going to happen either. I'm pretty sure there's only one coaching job spot open right now, and that's Charlotte's, because the Lakers have a new coach. The Kings got Mike Green from Golden State. Again, off the top of my head, I have to remember. I just don't see Quinn Snyder gone. I don't see them rebuilding, so I don't only see, if anything, one of their superstars leaves, and that to me is very much Donovan Mitchell. If you're the Heat, look, man, you gotta bring in someone, and I think Donovan Mitchell is your top priority. He can score, he can ball handle very well. You can put him at the 1 or 2. Most likely, put him at the 1. You're most likely going to take. You gotta trade another superstar or a player with potential. I think Tyler Hero will be the guy that you're looking to trade here. But like, if you can keep him, maybe you give up a bunch of picks, give up Kyle Lowry, go ahead. But another guy, Zach LaVine, I don't think Zach LaVine's leaving Chicago. I've heard a lot of the Laker rumors. I'm not gonna lie to you. I would be extremely excited to see him go to the Lakers. And I'm not a Lakers fan, but to have LeBron, Zach LaVine, and Anthony Davis, because I just don't see them getting Zach LaVine and having Russell Westbrook. It'll be exciting to watch. But I also think that the city of Chicago still deserves a superstar. So I think, in my opinion, he is returning. Bradley Beal, I don't really have much to say about Bradley Beal. Again, off the top of my head, I think he can accept his player option this year, which he can also decline it. But Miami has no cap. Unless they're willing to sign and trade, and this really depends a lot on the Wizards. Are they willing to take in a bigger contract? Like you bring Bradley Beal in, I don't think you can keep Kyle Lowry. With that being said, like let's just move on. You got Christian Wood. If you want to partner a big man with Bam, I think I saw in a article that they were looking to move Bam back to the power forward spot and allow him play that instead of having to play kind of somewhat out of the position at center, which he plays great at. They just want him to play at the power forward spot. Okay, well you can bring Christian Wood in. You can play Christian Wood at the center. He's not a bad defender, but he's offensively really good, and he can really take a little bit off of Jimmy Butler's hand. Now I will say he's not like, he's not Donovan Mitchell, Zach LaVine, or Bradley Beal at offense, but he's really good at it, and you won't have to ask for your center now currently being Bam Adebayo to, hey man, I need you to drop 30 a game, because Jimmy can't do it by himself. You can say, Christian Wood, can you drop me 25, 22? He can easily do it. You can argue that you want to see more efficient games from Christian Wood, but for the most part, he's extremely good. He's just in a weird situation with the Rockets, so you can see him get moved there. Buddy Hield, I think that Buddy Hield for a while has been one of the best scorers overall, best shooter. I haven't really checked too much on Buddy Hield because, you know, once he didn't go to the Lakers, I let it be. They can obviously look for Buddy Hield. It's not really my favorite partnership, Jimmy and Buddy, but it's better than nothing because you really do need an offensive player. If you sit back and let teams retool, well, yeah, you're going to be behind. The Nets are getting Kyrie back healthy next year. Well, sorry, Kyrie's going to actually be able to play all the next year. And they're going to probably look to retool their defense. And then, you know, Ben Simmons is going to be there. So defensively, they're going to get better. They're going to be a better team. They're not going to be a bottom-seeded team like they were this year. And then there's other teams like the Celtics, to me, are still going to be really good. They keep the same team they had this year. They're going to be really good. And there are going to be other teams like Cleveland's going to try to figure it out. The Hornets, at least in my predictions, are going to be a better team. This is going to be a harder Eastern Conference than it was even this year, next year. So if you're Miami, you might want to look for someone. You're in a win-now position, right? Like you have to look for someone to partner with Jimmy Butler. And then there is Gordon Hayward. I don't think he's the number one wing on your list, but with Charlotte obviously shopping people, obviously being good, he can play make, he can ball handle. You don't have to keep the ball in Jimmy Butler's hands if you want to have offense. Only issue that you would have with Gordon Hayward is, well, he's not a great defender, and I don't know how Eric Spoelstra would use him if he can't defend at a high level. I think he'll put effort in, but yeah, also there's the fact that, you know, he's injury prone, and he's been pretty much injury prone every year since Utah. Hey, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're a Miami fan, leave a comment on where you think your team is going to end up next year.